To continue in this video series, this part of the video is very, very important because it is going to show what kind of information is omitted from these kinds of broadcasts relating to who these sovereign citizens are and how vitally important it is to include what I'm about to include so that there's a fuller picture and fuller understanding of what ends up being a very tragic event.
May the 20th, 2010 started out like any other day. Two veterans of our West Memphis, Arkansas Police Department, Bill Evans and Brandon Powdert, were patrolling the interstate as part of the department's drug interdiction team, something they love to do. They became involved in what seemed to be a routine traffic stop, though I've always warned my officers there is no such thing. But really, how much more routine can you get than pulling over a father and son in what looked like a church bus? My men didn't realize who or what they were dealing with. Neither officer made it home. And one of them was my son.
Now, of course, this is a tragic, horrible situation. But what they're not addressing is why was the father and son pulled over to begin with. When government enters our lives, we have criminal court, we have civil court. These relate to injuries, harm, and damages. What was this father and son team that indicated they were involved in anything harmful or damaging or creating an injury to someone? They were not put in handcuffs immediately, so there apparently wasn't any probable cause that would indicate they were involved in anything criminal. Now, I cover in other parts the fraud in traffic tickets relating to how they make it appear as though you're committing crimes, but they take you into a civil court. That alone is a deception. It deceives people into believing they're involved in some sort of crime or criminal behavior, when really the matter is just civil in nature. What was the father and son doing? Now, to my knowledge, if I remember this correctly, I don't remember exactly why they were pulled over, but it looked like it had something maybe to do with the license plate. They certainly weren't harming anyone that I can recall, or else they would have been arrested. They weren't damaging anything. They were just going from one place to another. Later on, I believe the father and the son were killed by police officers who went after them after their police officers were killed. How much tragedy do we need here? So 4 people approximately died that day. Over what? Over an expired license plate or something like that? It certainly didn't look like they were going very fast. I don't think there was speeding involved. Even if there was speeding, which I'm pretty sure there was not, they weren't harming anyone. They're driving no kind of a fancy car. They don't look like they're wealthy. They're just minding their own business, going from one place to another. And police officers felt the need to come into their lives and interfere with their lives for whatever reason. Now, if they were dealing with previous traffic issues, they faced the real possibility that perhaps they were going to go to jail for whatever this new, quote, violation was. And most people in America prefer to be free as compared to being in jail. So they may have decided they had to fight back with violence to avoid being imprisoned for having done nothing wrong by any reasonable moral standard. And that is my point. They were likely in trouble due to not following the rule of government. The rule meaning you have to have a certain kind of license plate that you have to pay for, pay your money towards every 2 years, or some other rule that they have in place. And I need to ask, what rule would warrant something that would instigate violence in order to perhaps stay out of prison for not having proper stickers on your car or proper tags or license plates on your car? How is that warranted? This is the kind of thing I'm talking about. You have to note how this video did not reference why the father and son were pulled over. Why? Because if you knew the reason, you would be shocked and appalled at the fact that 4 lives were lost that day because of an improper license plate or something of this nature. What are they omitting, and how are they trying to make you feel when they discuss what I believe could be considered a propaganda or an agenda? Use your common sense. Think, what reason is there to have 4 people dying over some kind of traffic law where nobody is getting hurt and nobody is getting injured? Repeat that question to yourself and find a reasonable, logical answer.
I'm Bob Powder, Chief of the West Memphis Police Department. My officers, Bill and my son Brandon, didn't realize that there are people at war with this country that are not international terrorists. They are seemingly ordinary people, just like you and me, but they don't recognize the federal government's authority to impose laws or taxes on them. They're known as sovereign citizens. Their beliefs may sound so out there that they appear comical or crazy, but don't discount or ignore these people, because they're willing to kill and be killed for these beliefs. We as law enforcement officers need to recognize this very real threat so we can protect ourselves. And maybe if Brandon and Bill had been able to recognize the warning signs of sovereign beliefs, they'd be alive today. Indicators from
Yes, some of the quote sovereign type people are lunatics, but you have to understand where their perspective is, why they act the way they do. And you can't ignore the other 80% of people who associate in this movement who don't have any ill intentions at all. They don't want to hurt anyone. They just want government to stay out of their lives and leave them be. Such as the case, you can relate it back to what happened with that incident on the highway there with the officers and the father and the son. They just want to be left alone. What too often happens, and why I got involved with this movement, so to speak, 15 years ago, was because government came into my life. And once I realized the fraud that was being perpetuated in courtrooms and how the judges and the prosecutors and the cops refused to follow their own laws, and most importantly, denied me due process, which is so easy to prove. Anyone can experience this for themselves so easily through just a simple traffic ticket. They can discover how there is denial of due process in the courtroom, whereby the judge will do whatever he pleases to you and have full immunity, full discretion to do as he pleases with zero liability, no consequences whatsoever. That is something I believe most Americans would disagree with. That is what so many of these people are fighting against. Is that domestic terrorism? When you simply insist that your own government stop denying you due process, stop committing frauds. Why will they never answer any of the simple questions posed to them about the nature of the process of traffic tickets. It's a great starting point because we all travel, and most of us get traffic tickets at some point in our lives, so we have to deal with it. If you want to see the corruption and experience it firsthand, fight a traffic ticket, but first learn how the process works, how the law works, what the law is about, what due process is. And once you challenge courts with these traffic tickets, where the fraud is so easy to prove, and you find they refuse to answer your questions and will side against you every time, you will know there is a problem in this country, and a severe one. Thank you so much for watching. More videos to come in this series.